Yep,
Oh, is it?
it is.
Chair of the city council can get that fixed.
Evidently not, actually.
Forever. I remember Jonathan Cook.
It seems to be easier said than done.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the West Haymarket JPA. I am Lyran Gaylor-Baird, and to my right is Regent Tim Clare, and to my left is City Council Chair Tom Beckius. I want to call this meeting to order. The order of business will go as follows. Our clerk, Casey, will read each item on the agenda, and then a staff member will come forward and present on that item. Following that staff presentation, we'd be happy to take any public comment and would just remind any speakers that you have a total of 5 minutes to speak on a particular item, and we'd ask that you kindly state your name and address prior to providing your comments. And with that, Casey, would you please call the first item on today's agenda?
Approval of the minutes from the JPA special meeting held April 4th, 2024.
so second.
Moved by Claire, second by Beckius. Any discussions? Okay, no changes to the minutes. Would you please call the roll, Casey?
Beckius,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Gaylor-Baird.
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0. The next item is approval of the payment register for December 2023 through March 2024 and review of the expenditure report as of March 31st, 2024.
Good afternoon, board members. For the record, Lynn Heaton, City Finance Director and West Haymarket JPA Treasurer. It's my pleasure to be before you once again today and to present to you the payment register for the period December 2023 through March 2024. The highlights for you from that report that is part of the packet. The $16,795,800 paid to Union Bank and Trust Company for the semi-annual JPA bond principal and interest payment. This was paid in December. $1,048,112 to District Energy Corporation for the December 2023 through March 2024 billings. $794,000 of this was collected back from customers. That represents 75.8% of what was paid to DEC for those services. $799,128 to City of Lincoln Parking Services for the October 2023 through February 2024 JPA Parking Garage Management. And during that same period, the JPA collected $1.6 million in parking revenue, so well more than what it's paid for management. Paid $216,200 to ASM Global or Legends for the FY 22-23 operator incentive fees that were earned pursuant to that agreement. This is per the board-approved management agreement with ASM Global Legends. $205,819 to City of Lincoln for the first and second quarter fiscal year 23-24 city staff costs as adopted in the 23-24 JPA operating budget. $58,871 to the City of Lincoln for annual maintenance of the festival lot and arena drive, and this maintenance is performed by the Parks and Recreation Department and also through an agreement with the Downtown Lincoln Association. $60,176 to First Wireless Incorporated for two-way radios at the arena, and that's as approved by the board in WH 01411, which is adopted in January of this year. $36,170 to Mitsubishi Electric for the LED corner scoreboards at the arena. And this is a partial payment. That's obviously not the full amount for those corner scoreboards. That's as approved by the board in WH 01415, also in January of this year. $42,303 to REB Storage Systems for the storage loft at the arena, and that again is approved by the board in January of this year. And then finally, $1,048,897 to the Pinnacle Bank Arena account for the following: $160,915 for arena repair, routine maintenance, and purchase of minor equipment for the October 2023 through January 2024 period. $62,981 for food and beverage equipment pursuant to the budget. $525,000 for second and third quarter fiscal year 23-24 sponsorships, and these are paid from the Learfield marketing and promotional revenue. And then finally, $300,000 for second and third quarter fiscal year 23-24 operating increment, again pursuant to the management agreement. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Lynn? Okay, thank you.
I will just add, I have information on occupation tax revenues for the year through March 31, 2024. Through March, the occupation tax revenues are better than the prior year by $482,093. This is roughly 4% increase over the same time period last year. Relative to the original budget projections, we have collected through last fiscal year the equivalent of what was originally projected for the year 2042. And this is no change since the last time we reported to the board. And so here maybe as a representative of the performance of the occupation tax revenues, just a reminder to you of that comparison to the original projections. Original projections is the blue line. Actuals through last fiscal year are the gray, and the yellow or orange line is new projections. And so again, we believe the occupation tax revenues are performing very strongly. And another chart just to show the board looking forward in terms of the strength of the cash position of the West Haymarket JPA fund. We do show that there will continue to be strong net revenues such that the fund balance is maintained very strongly.
And just to remind all those watching, part of the reason we take a somewhat cautious approach with the JPA funds is just that we anticipate additional maintenance and repair needs over time to increase. So
absolutely, and we have this forecast of these cash flows take into account a long-term forecast of the capital improvement, the necessary capital improvements, and things of those nature. So that's correct, Mayor.
All right, thank you. And I should have mentioned earlier that this is a public meeting subject to the Open Meetings Act, and there is a sign indicating that at the back of the chamber. With that, we would invite any public comment on the payment register item. If anyone would like to speak to this item, please come forward.
There is no sound system. So if I can stand right over here so I can hear, because you don't often, the three of you don't often speak into the microphone. Is that all right?
We can hear you, and you would like to, I'm sorry, what is your request exactly? You would like to, would you like?
Stand closer so she can hear.
So you.
Stand right here rather than seated while you're talking.
Sure, absolutely. That's just fine. Thank you. Okay. Do you have any comment on this item?
Yes.
Okay.
On the maintenance for the Pinnacle Bank Arena, it looks like you have provided, in addition to what was in the special meeting, it's over $1 million this time. So since the bonds are taken care of, that's coming out of the occupation tax.
Yes, the bonds are the first priority on the occupation tax revenues and other JPA revenues.
Okay. So, what is the balance at this time then?
As of the end of March, the fund balance was $44.8 million.
Okay, and does that count this, these 2 months of payments? taken
Yes,
out?
all of this is reported as of the end of March.
Okay, all right. I would like to remind the public that they are paying taxes to several entities. Not only the occupation tax, the federal government has provided the bonds money, so in essence, your tax money is taking care of that. The state has a turnback tax, which is also comes from your tax payments, and then the local occupation tax. So you are paying for the arena in several different ways, besides just repaying the bond money. Another issue is that the balance for the bond, the JPA balance, was in the red. So they did manage to, on page, let's see, this is page West Haymarket Joint Public Agency Revenues and Expenditures for 3/31/2024. So they did make up a deficit and wound up with a balance of $44,763 or so at the end of the year. But we have no guarantee
1 minute.
that it would not happen in the future. Hopefully, the projection will work in that favor. The arena has a subsidy of $600,000 a year. I don't remember if that goes back all the way to 2014. Does it go all the way back that far,
The $600,000 per year operating increment is been contemplated since the beginning as part of the management agreement.
Okay.
You might recall that at an earlier meeting, I believe it was the January meeting, the board approved return of $1.2 million of the operating increment from the Pinnacle Bank Arena account to the JPA fund.
To
because of
cover
the strong-
600,000?
No, the other direction. Because of the strong performance of the arena, it was able to provide $1.2 million back to the JPA.
That would have
5 minutes?
reimbursed for 600,000?
It was the equivalent for of the additional operating increment that was provided in fiscal year 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and also one additional year's worth of the operating increment.
Okay, so that was 1.4 million?
1.2 million.
Okay.
Ms. Kinsey, we're at 5 minutes, and I might just suggest that to maximize your time in the future on items, if you want to ask all your questions, then we could have Lynn come up and answer them, and that wouldn't take away from your 5 minutes, if you want to consider that as an option. All right.
Okay.
Thank you both. All right. Are there any other folks who would like to testify on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'd ask for a motion or discussion. Sorry.
The comment was 44,000 in our account. It actually says 44 million in the account, not 44,000. And we are 18 years ahead of where we anticipated to be with the occupation tax.
Okay, thank you. Any further comment?
No, I'll move approval.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Beckius, second by Claire. No further discussion. Please call the roll.
Beckius,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0. The next item is Bill Number WH 24-20, Resolution to accept the financial audit and management letter and report from Forvis for the period ending August 31st, 2023.
Hello once again, and Lynn Heaton, City Finance Director. With me here today is Chris Lindner of Forvis. The team at Forvis completed the independent audit of the JPA's financial statements several months ago, and today we are before you to recommend your approval of the financial audit report presented by Forvis. The audit was performed under governmental auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States, and I'm happy to report to you resulted in a clean audit, or otherwise known as an unmodified opinion. And so with that, Chris will come up and provide you with some additional information.
Thank you. Welcome, Chris.
Good afternoon, board members. Chris Lindner, audit partner with Forvis here in Lincoln, Nebraska, and pleased to be with you again here today. Give a high-level overview of the financial statements themselves and see if there's any questions I can help answer. As Lynn mentioned, a few things I'll touch on. I do want to just thank the staff here at the city for all their help throughout the process. Lynn did mention that the audit has been completed for several months, just from a timing of the board meetings, finally presenting to you today here in April. But really a longer process of starting some of the internal control planning and testing of segregation of duties and the checks and balances that we actually start kind of in the late summer and fall months. And then we have a team on site here at City Hall going through the balances for several weeks in November and December to kind of get us to where we're at. So, that early testing phase, we've got a team here on site, including myself, with reviews. And then we actually have another partner in our firm that's outside of our office here that then looks at the documentation. We'll not go through every piece of documentation, but looks at the deliverables, as well as some of the items in there to make sure we've followed the standards that we need to, that we've kind of checked, crossed our T's, dotted our I's, and done what we need to do from an audit standard and independent standpoint. So from an audit result standpoint, just kind of maybe, again, reinforcing what Lynn had mentioned, within the packet you should have two items. One is kind of the financial statements that includes the opinions or the audit reports themselves. Mine's not color copied, yours may be. And then the other is a shorter letter. It's kind of our communication letter, maybe a management letter, that just takes and touches on a few items that are required under the audit standards and helps maybe understand the financial statements themselves as well. Not to go into a lot of detail on any of these items. If you do have further questions, I'm happy to answer those, as well as I know, Lynn and the team here at the City Hall can help answer any specific financial or numbers questions. Within that audit report, though, there are two opinions. The first opinion in the front is the financial statement opinion, and that is the kind of just saying, the work we've done, our overall objective is to issue an opinion to say, are these financial statements in accordance with GAAP? And that is a clean or an unmodified opinion, meaning we don't take exception to the numbers that were provided by the city for the financial statements of the JPA. And being, again, kind of the entity with the city and within the state, there's that second opinion in accordance with government auditing standards. And so this is required for certain governmental entities like the JPA. We have to look at not just the numbers, but then look at kind of that internal control framework. And if there are significant gaps or deficiencies, that would be classified as a significant deficiency or a material weakness, meaning that there's not a control in place, or maybe a control did not work as it was designed, and that could result in a material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. We would have to report that in that second opinion near the back of the report. We did not have anything of that nature to report within that second opinion. So not kind of the same meaning, but kind of a cleaner and unmodified opinion on that one as well. As I mentioned, the letter touches on a few things, within the financial statement audit, goes through, what are some of the estimates within the financials. So from a governance standpoint, what are areas that maybe have more risk? What are some disclosures that, from a footnote standpoint, to pay more attention to? And then touches on the various responsibilities of us as the audit firm, as well as the responsibilities of management and the board. So with that, I will open it up for any questions you may all have, but want to thank again the team here at the city for all their efforts throughout the process and the opportunity to present to you all here today.
Thank you. Any
Chris.
questions for Chris?
No, so we're good financially, as you heard from Lynn. Our processes and procedures and everything is good from your end as well.
Yep. So obviously, our objective is not to, express an opinion on the financial standing of the JPA.
So we heard that from Lynn already.
But yeah, but however, the numbers Lynn presented through the city within the financials, we have tested those and believe they are in accordance with the correct accounting standards. And then from an internal control standpoint that we do test, did not have any issues to report.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. At this time, we take any public comment on the auditor's report.
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs. So to carry on with how the people are paying for this as taxpayers, the federal government gave or has designated taxes, payments, I should say, from the Build America bonds, and then also from several other gifts from the federal government to economic development bonds. Now, the federal government could call this back if they wished. There was a meeting when Mayor Beitler was in office concerning a statement that had been made when our previous finance officer presented it to them, and they discussed that. We'll have to see how it goes. Of course, it's not very often that the feds ask for money back, but the people need to know that that is a possibility. Apparently, and it was mentioned in the financial statement as a note by the auditors as a long-term liability. So that would be I think it's my understanding that that is, and maybe the financial officer can answer that that's in addition to that financed the bonds. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand the question.
Okay, the federal government with the Build America bonds and the other financing that they gave, that went to finance the bonds, right?
The Build America bonds and the Recovery Zone economic development bonds each come with a interest subsidy, and those range from 35 to 45%. And so that is in addition, so that's supplements, if you will, for the payment on the debt service on the bonds.
Payment on the debt, okay. So that helps the JPA pay their debt, is that it?
It is an interest subsidy. We make the debt service payments, and then there is a check issued by the U.S. Treasury Department.
Okay, so it is an assist from the federal government on financing.
Yes, it was an incentive provided by the federal government for investment at the
Okay.
time the arena was being built.
And in other words, if they wanted to call that back, it would be up to the taxpayers to come up with the money, correct?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by calling it back. So anything that we've received has been deposited into the JPA's funds. And so
Yeah, but they
anything
had
they've
this
ta-
meeting back when Mayor Beitler was concerned about this statement that had been made, and the finance officer at that time
1 minute.
discussed this.
I suspect it's possible the federal government could change its, I mean, that's the nature of Congress and passage of laws. There's opportunities at any time for them to change the laws.
Okay. So, but it's important for people to know that. In the interest of transparency, that they are paying for this through federal, state, city assist, as well as their occupation tax. So, it's not just one way that they borrowed the money and that was it. Okay?
All right, would anyone else like to testify on this item? Seeing no one, take a motion on this item.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Claire, seconded by Beckius. Any further discussion among the board? Okay, I'll just say thank you to the team at Forvis for working with the JPA finance team and appreciate your report. We're glad that it's good news. Please call the roll, Casey.
Beckius,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0. The next item, bill number WH24-21, resolution to approve a unit price contract with American Fence Company to repair damaged decorative fencing at the north end of the Lincoln Pedestrian Bridge for an amount not to exceed $3,931.44 to be paid out of the endowment fund.
Good afternoon, Board. Chris Connolly, City Law Department. This is a contract to repair a portion of fence that has been damaged due to some settling that's taken place on the north end, as was indicated. This is a small contract. This will be paid out of the endowment that we have, and so JPA fund, the direct JPA funds that's in the bank will not be affected by this.
Thank you. Questions? No? Thank you, Chris. Yeah. All right, would anyone like to speak on this $3,931 contract?
Jane Kinsey. Mr. Conley, what was the damage caused?
There was some settlement of the land where the fence was put in, and it caused it to pull it down and created some damage to the posts and to the fence itself.
So it wasn't really damage,
Yes, the fence was damaged.
not caused by anything.
Wasn't caused by an individual, if that's what you mean.
Okay. By construction?
Well, there wasn't any construction activity. I believe this is just settled out, maybe through rain and drainage.
Oh,
Over the course of time, I think things like that can happen.
Okay. Did they tell you that
That's what, yes.
in the bid?
Well, they didn't tell us that in the bid. This is what the people that have been keeping track of this have reported back to us.
Okay, thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak to this item? All right, seeing no further testifiers, accept a motion on item 6.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Becky, a second by Claire. Any further discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Beckius,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0. Next item, bill number WH24-22, resolution to approve an agreement for engineering services between the West Haymarket JPA and Olson for semi-annual inspections in accordance with the West Haymarket redevelopment site north and south O&M plans and limited on-call soil sampling for an amount not to exceed $13,000.
This matter is something that we've been doing for the last few years on the recommendation of our environmental specialist to do these semi-annual inspections on some of the soils and to be available on call to do other soil sampling if necessary. And so the contract is for $13,000. I don't know that we would spend that much, but in any event, it's something that we need to do to maintain our standing and make sure that we're not having any difficulties with any of the environmental work that was done many years ago. And so we would ask your approval.
Thank you. Any questions for Chris? All right. Would anyone like to testify on item 7?
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs. So is this something that is done every year in agreement with Olson?
We have done a new agreement with Olson for the last few years, yes.
Okay. And is this on land presently owned by the JPA?
Or that we have responsibility for the environmental issues with the land.
Okay. Is this on land that's going to become a park?
It could include that.
It could, okay. But not for sure.
Well, I don't make the decisions on where the soil sampling takes place. Okay,
Okay.
somebody else does that. But it would be eligible for it.
Okay. Somebody else in Olson that would decide that?
Olson, and then they would probably make recommendations to us.
Okay. Will that come back to the JPA then?
Not for the location of the soil sampling itself,
But the property?
but it would, yes, they would determine where they think the soil sampling needs to be done. It also depends on whether or not there's a need. If there were discussions with other groups or EPA or NDEE, if they felt that there was a need to do some soil sampling, then we would hire them to go out and do that as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Seeing none, I take a motion.
Move approval. Second.
Moved by Beckius, seconded by Claire. Any further discussion? All right, please call the roll, Casey.
Beckius?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Motion carried, 3-0. Next item, bill number WH 24-23, resolution to approve an agreement between the West Haymarket JPA and 5 Nines Technology Group for network hardware replacements for the Pinnacle Bank Arena for an amount not to exceed $32,602.61.
This is we've been working with 5 Nines for years, and technology is something, of course, that changes over very quickly and has a relatively short life to it, and so this is a replacement of some of the hardware. And so it's kind of a, I don't want to call it a standard, but obviously we have to come across this once in a while. Like so many of the other projects we've been doing the last couple of meetings, it's all related to the age of the building and the equipment that's in it. And so for $32,000 for new equipment, we would ask for your approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Thanks. Would anyone like to testify on item 8? We'll take public comment on item 8 for anyone who'd like to testify. All right. Seeing none, I entertain a motion.
Move approval. Beat me. Second.
Moved by Becky, a second by Claire. Any discussion? All right, please call the roll.
Beckius?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Motion carried, 3-0. The next item, bill number WH 24-24, resolution to approve amendment number 1 to the real property agreement for transfers in West Haymarket 4th Edition with the City of Lincoln.
Okay, going back a year, there was a project that was being proposed for Block 5 that was owned by the JPA, and in the original agreement that was approved about a year ago at this time, the JPA conveyed the property to the city for purposes of allowing that project to finish out and allowing the city to negotiate terms with the developer. That project did not come to fruition, and since that time there have been further discussions on what to do with this land, and it has been determined that it should be used as an expansion of South Haymarket Park. And so in order to do the conveyance, we felt that the best way to do this was to have an amendment to the agreement that was passed last year. And that's why you have what is before you as amendment number 1. And basically this would convey the property to the city in its entirety to be dedicated to as park purposes, and that the West Haymarket JPA believes that enhancement of the park is in the best interests of not only the citizens of the city, but also will help with the West Haymarket area, and that it will drive additional economic activity, which of course will help revenues for the JPA. And so that's why you have amendment number 1 before you. As part of our presentation, I would like to also ask members from Parks to come up and explain a little more about how it will fit in with South Haymarket Park.
Thank you, Chris.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Nayla with Lincoln Parks and Recreation, and I am excited to share with you some of our plans for South Haymarket Park.
Thank you, Karen. We're happy to have you here today. And if you don't mind just adjusting your microphone up a little, that might help all of our listeners.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear myself now.
There we go.
All right. Well, as we know, the South Haymarket Park will be our new high amenity urban park, which will serve as a catalyst for redevelopment in the Haymarket districts. And this park represents years of planning and community feedback, which led to the recommendation of this new park to serve our downtown area. This park will drive economic activity in the West Haymarket area and really across our community by improving the quality of life for downtown residents and businesses. And it will also serve as an attraction to visitors in the area. It will create the ability to host events in this space. So looking at our skate park, we can have skating tournaments, and other community events can be hosted here. And that will also further drive that economic benefit of the park for the area. When we look at the Block 5, this is a 1.6 acre lot that would be gifted. It would increase the size of the park, creating additional green space, but it also creates an iconic entrance to the park at Canopy and N Street. You can see by the area that we have dashed in red there how that starts to impact and really brings forward the face of the park to our community. Additionally, the inclusion of Block 5 will improve the overall layout of our park. Allows us to bring that skate park front and center, so it is close to our main entrances of the park. And it also improves circulation and connections to the park from our surrounding districts as well. This gift of Block 5 will also allow money from our anonymous donor to go towards the development of the park rather than acquisition of the land, which will help offset the cost that we would see with that additional 1.6 acres. So I'm going to do just a quick overview of some of the improvements that we're able to make with this parcel. So as I mentioned, this becomes that iconic entrance, and we're also able to add a new feature. This would be the main hearth that would be added as a gathering feature at that main entrance at Canopy and N Street. We're also able to take our beautiful lawn space, our open lawn space, and really pull that into the park, giving it a little bit of separation from N Street. And as part of that would come the canopy structure that will have our porch swing. So those become internal to the park, having a very peaceful setting for that. But we also start to capture some beautiful, beautiful views back to the Haymarket district and to the downtown beyond. And then, as I mentioned, our state-of-the-art in-ground skate park will be pulled forward. So before it was kind of tucked back into that little triangle to the southwest of the park. This brings it forward so that we have easy access from the garage, the garages in the area for events, but it also makes it easy to access from the trails if you're walking in the area, and then also from our parking lot. So we're also able to pull that into a space where we can use the surrounding areas to help support it during any tournaments or events that are taking place. And then we have our Common Ground Plaza. And while this location hasn't really moved, what this does is really allows this space to be the heart of the park and be that connector between the north half of our park and that south half, and really tie all of our features together. And with that, I'll just end with a view back from Canopy Street, looking at this green space that we're creating. We have a lot of pavement in this area, and this really becomes that green oasis that draws you in if you're standing on Canopy Street or in the arena looking to the south. Thank you. With that,
Okay.
The only other things I would add is that JPA board has supported this park in the past. It gave really the rest of the what's been called the tornado And so this board has been supportive, and by doing this, you're continuing your support of this wonderful park. And so what would happen if you approve today, this would then be taken to the city council for their approval as an amendment to the agreement. And then the conveyance would take place after that.
Thank you. Any questions for Karen or Chris from board members?
No, Karen, I had not seen that image before, that last image that you focused on. Thank you for sharing it. I think it really gives us a proper vision as to what this park will actually do to this area of the city. So thank you for sharing that with me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think that in the past there was some concern about making sure people could identify the park from a distance, and by opening it up in this manner, I don't think that's a concern that remains. So thank you for all of your work on the park design. Thank you, Chris. At this time, we would take any comments from folks who are here today. Any public comment on this item?
Jane Kinsby with Watchdogs. I would like to remind the public that they did not vote for any of this expansion of the idea of the arena. And I'm going to read the ballot question that you voted for. The City of Lincoln issue its arena bonds in a principal amount not to exceed $25 million for the purpose of paying a portion of the cost incident to acquiring, constructing, equipping, and furnishing the Lincoln Haymarket Arena and related facilities and improvements to be dated at the time of their issuance, and so on. So this vote has gone way beyond what the people expected. Now, I suppose you could say some of it may be very vague and says that environs, but it does not mention all of the land around there and the expansion of this. And as far as the park is concerned, you're going to have small children who are playing on soil that it has been contaminated for 150 years. Now, this issue came up in the building of the original arena, but this is different. There's going to be no kind of construction between the land and the people. And I will say that I have received information from a former employee of the city, including material that shows that there is grave concern about having an open area here. Now, that's an issue that can be investigated further when we know about the soil report. But I think this is something that the city leadership might say is all in good stead, an expansion for us. But are downsides to it, and it needs to be watched and also investigated in the future.
Chris, would you come up and speak to the capping work that's been done on this land?
Yeah, the allegation about children playing on ground that is somehow unsafe is not accurate. All of this land was fully rehabilitated years ago and has a 4-foot cap of clean soil on top of it. And both the EPA and NDEE have given us what are called no further action letters, which means that they never tell you that it's clean, that everything underneath the cap is clean. What they say is there's nothing else you need to do, that it is in fact safe
For this particular use.
For this particular use. And therefore, there is this cap that does in fact provide protection for anyone who will be walking, running, doing whatever they're going to do in the park.
And also the JPA footprint goes out to cover this particular area.
Yes, it does.
To
Correct.
the south, and so this is JPA land, it always has been.
It's all part of the footprint. The entire South Haymarket Park has been and continues to be in the footprint for the JPA.
And the vote referenced was not about the joint public agency. The vote reference was on the bond to help build the arena.
Correct, but it does was meant to include areas around the JPA as well, and that's what this includes. And the JPA footprint, especially to the south like that, has always been the same from the very beginning.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Claire, seconded by Beckius. Any further discussion?
No.
I just want to reiterate that this park has been contemplated for a number of years through our downtown master plan, through the JPA boundaries, and through community engagement. And we're really pleased to be able to be moving forward on something that's going to help us create a dynamic downtown and further catalyze economic development and increase quality of life in our community. Thank you to all involved. With that, please call the roll.
Beckius,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0. Next item, bill number WH 24-25, resolution to approve a contract between the West Haymarket JPA and Vasa Construction for the West Haymarket Streetscape expansion for a total amount not to exceed $219,725 pursuant to bid number 24-84.
For this work, this is work that's basically underneath the O Street Viaduct. And with the completion of projects like the Olson Building on the north and Canopy Park on the south, there was this little area in between that never really got fully developed. It's been used for parking areas and whatnot, but it hadn't really been finished out as such. And so we've been working with urban development to come up with a plan to finish this out, create streetscape and make it a better looking area. And so that's what this project is about, is doing that work. Now, a substantial portion of this $219,000 will be coming back to the JPA from urban development as their share of the cost of doing these improvements. And so this is not a reconstruction. This is not a repair. It's not really maintenance. It's really kind of new development as far as that's concerned. But it's also finishing out a piece of the West Haymarket area that had not been finished before. And so with that, we would ask approval.
Thank you. Any questions?
Again, I can't remember your reasoning. I wanted to use the endowment to help pay the streetscape. What's the situation there?
The endowment really is meant for repairs and maintenance. And as I was just indicating, this is not really a repair. It's all land that got covered up for a little bit and then was taken apart. It was really never finished out as a finished space. And so that's what we're doing now.
Could you repeat where it is exactly? Sorry, where is this?
This is underneath the O Street Viaduct, west of 8th Street, between the Olson Building on the north and Canopy Park on the south.
Thank you.
It's on the west side of
West side of 8th Street, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay.
But I thought along that 8th Street by Olson, I thought we used endowment funds for that.
I don't recall. Yeah, there was a mixture of funds that was used in a number of those things. Some of it may have been Olson money as well, but I don't recall using endowment funds for that. You're right. There's been changes in there, and we had issues with whether there was an encroachment or not, and that sort of thing. But those were all issues that I believe were either paid for by the JPA or by Olson.
Questions? All right, thank you. Be happy to take some public comment on item 10.
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs. So, is this the bridge that spells out Lincoln?
No, this is
next
the viaduct that's actually O Street.
Where the barking,
There is some parking underneath that viaduct, yes.
Okay. So, this is an old place, isn't it? That's been around quite a long time.
Yes.
It's nothing new.
No, I mean, the space has obviously been there for a long
Okay,
time.
and
yeah.
that's the responsibility of the JPA?
Yes, this is in the JPA footprint.
Okay,
And again, the city is contributing to this.
okay. How far beyond that does the JPA footprint go?
Well, it goes west on the other side of the railroad tracks. And it goes north all the way up to Cornhusker, and it goes south down to the point that we were seeing on South Haymarket Park.
Okay, and you're saying this is a repair and not a,
No, it's not a repair. It's basically new development, if you will. I mean, it's just, it's a place where there's been dirt and gravel and vehicles are parked on it, but it has never really been finished out. And so they're going to put in some curbing and some street trees and that kind of thing to finish it out, make it look nice.
okay, so really it's just it's on the property. Is it being used already?
It's been used for various purposes, not the least of which has been staging areas for construction equipment while both the Olson Building and Canopy Park were being built.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Would anyone else like to testify? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on item 10? All right. Please call the roll.
Beckius,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Motion carried, 3-0. Next item, bill number WH 24-26, resolution to approve a contract between the West Haymarket JPA and Western Specialty Contractors for repairs to the Pinnacle Bank Arena ramp, elevated plaza, and pedestrian bridge for a total amount not to exceed $189,454.44 pursuant to bid number 24-85.
This is yet another project that we can chalk up to age causing deterioration of infrastructure that we have. And so this is a matter of making repairs and doing sealing of the decking to the pedestrian bridge that goes over the railroad tracks. And so this is a good coating that's going to be used on it. It's the kind of coating that gets used in the parking garages to seal the cement surfaces in our parking garages. And we believe it's going to have a very good long life to it and protect that concrete even longer. So with that, we would ask your approval.
Questions?
One question. Chris and maybe Caleb, this is the result of the study that we had approved a couple of meetings back. Is this contract the totality of the work that study identified needs to be done?
Caleb Swanson, Project Control. Yes, sir. So this is related to the study that DLR conducted of the ramp and the elevated plaza and kind of all that elevated concrete infrastructure. This scope of work will include all of those recommended repairs.
Okay.
The sealant of the surface is one of the largest elements of that, but there's a number of other things that are included in there.
That will take place prior to the sealant?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
the sealant will be one of the last things that happens. And so we've been talking with Pinnacle Bank staff, with Ryan over there in operations, and there'll be coordination, obviously, that will need to take place around events to make sure that we're not interfering with traffic, pedestrian traffic, foot traffic as it's happening. Our objective is to be done later this year, but we'll be working around events.
Okay.
And there is also, as part of this agreement, kind of related to the damage fence that we talked about earlier. There's some of the decorative pavements that are up at the top of that festival space hill that will be repaired as part of this as well, just trying to address that entire kind of pedestrian corridor from the beginning of the bridge all the way to the ramp and all the way down, so that we're not only, kind of to your point, we're trying to do everything here and not just a piecemeal approach and still leave issues.
Sure. Okay.
For pedestrian traffic.
Because I noticed this dollar amount, I think, was less than the placeholder that we had in our last budget, but you're telling me that we might still have a few items coming forward.
Yes, so we had very good bid results for this project. We've talked to the board for a number of years now about different options that we might approach, particularly with the sealant on this. So we bid a number of different alternatives, kind of the good, better, best options, to kind of see what was out there and what the market was giving us. Bids were very competitive, and so we're actually, as Chris mentioned, we're able to go with kind of the best product here, and yet it is still within the JPA's budget for this project.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Great. Thank you so much. Would anyone like to comment on this item? Public testimony on this item? Okay, seeing none, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, moved by Claire, second by Beckius. Any further discussion among the board? All right, please call the roll, Casey.
Beckius,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0. The next item is bill number WH 24-27, resolution to approve an agreement for engineering services between the West Haymarket JPA and Olson for field inspections and structural conditions analysis of the Lincoln pedestrian bridge for an amount not to exceed $45,000.
Okay, so this contract is for work that we believe is necessary. Again, we have now an 11-year-old pedestrian bridge that unfortunately got off to a very difficult start. And so we believe it's necessary to do a full inspection, full structural inspection of the bridge to make sure that there are no components of the bridge that are failing anywhere. Since this, in talking with Caleb, one of the things I learned is that this kind of pedestrian bridge does not fall into the same categories as vehicle traversed bridges, and therefore
Not use the word fall.
okay. In any event, there are no requirements or standards for when inspections need to be done. And so, however, as a practice, we are going to adopt a model that will be similar to those kinds of bridges and will allow us good knowledge of what the condition of the bridge is going forward. And so with that, we would ask your approval.
Questions?
Yeah, it's just extraordinarily important. When the cable broke early on, when we first had this bridge up, we were so lucky that there wasn't a train or it didn't disrupt Burlington's use of the track.
No injuries.
And no injuries either. So this is something I think is extraordinarily important. I'm glad we're going and looking at it again. I'm surprised it's only 11 years. I guess I was thinking it was maybe 12 to 13 years old. But regardless, I think this is something we don't hedge on. We got to make sure.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to testify on item 12 regarding the bridge? Any public comment on this item? The pedestrian bridge item? Okay. With that, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, moved by Claire, seconded by Beckius. Any further discussion? All right, please call the roll.
Beckius,
Yes.
Claire,
Yep.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0. The next meeting date will be Thursday, August 29th, 2024 at 2:30 p.m. here in council chambers.
Okay, and at this time, we'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move adjournment?
Second.
Moved by Beckius, seconded by Claire. Please call the roll.
Beckius,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.